It's been around 2 or so years since Valve officially launched the Steam Deck OLED, and you're probably wondering, is this handheld console still worth it? Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is a little bit more nuanced than that, but yeah, let's get into it in this video. Do me a solid though, if you're new around here, you like Linux gaming, you like Steam Deck, you like handheld gaming, all that kind of stuff, then hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I'm trying to grow a community here, and if you'd enjoy this content and you really like it, leave a like as well. Cheers. So it's coming up almost 2 years, around about in November, since the Steam Deck OLED was officially launched. This is just an upgraded version of that LCD version, which has been very, very popular. I think there's a lot of question marks about what the future holds for this piece of technology. As I say, the short answer is this device still worth it? Is a resounding yes. It's a fantastic piece of kit. It is probably the main reason I'm now gaming more than I ever did before. But I want to get into why I think that is. Why I think if you're looking to purchase a handheld, I guess a handheld PC, handheld gaming console of this kind, which runs either Windows or Linux, that you want to be on the lookout for specific things, the kind of pitfalls you can avoid, the kind of games you can run, all that kind of stuff. I want to give you an overview as someone who's been using this for a long time, who has enjoyed it, has done modifications to it, as you can see right there. I love this thing, but there's also some things I don't like. So yeah, let's take a look at those. I want to get the negatives out the way early because I think this makes the most sense to do so for anyone out there who's like, oh, why would you want to buy this? The Steam Deck is a very particular piece of technology, i.e. you don't game potentially at a gaming PC, you don't have a console that you want to play in all the time, you maybe don't have a Switch and you don't care about, you care less, sorry, as it were, about essentials and the kind of games that run on those devices. I think if you are someone who's never PC gamed before, there are some negatives here that you might not like, i.e. certain games won't play as you probably used to. There is a little bit of tinkering you need to do to get certain games working as well. For me, one of the biggest problems I have with Steam Deck is the Steam Deck verified section of the Steam store. And I think this paints a really, I don't want to say inaccurate, but that's the only way I can describe it. It's a bit of an inaccurate picture of what the Steam Deck is capable of. And I think we're all guilty of this sometimes as PC gamers in general. If you're a PC gamer, you kind of want to run things at certain settings that probably aren't optimum for your device, your hardware, whatever it happens to be, and the Steam Deck is no different. So if you go by the Steam verified section or Steam Deck verified section of the Steam store, there is a lot of misinformation here because some of these devices or some of these games, sorry, for this device probably haven't been tested to the level that you would have expected to get that verification symbol, to get officially verified, as it were. Now, I'm not criticizing Valve too much here because obviously there is a huge library of PC games out there that, at least in theory, with the help of Proton, should run absolutely flawlessly on this device, given the fact that the hardware that was able to run those games, so I keep calling it devices, I don't know why, run those games back in the day, this far exceeds the minimum specifications and even sometimes the upper specifications or recommended specifications. This is where sometimes there's a little bit of there's a misconception and confusion, as it were. I've found that certain games that are Steam Deck verified run terribly. The fact of the matter is some games do run terribly. I don't know why. It could be certain settings that you have on your device. It could potentially be how you've set up your Steam Deck. I don't know why that is. It just seems to be the case. There is sometimes you'll find a game where you think, oh, this is going to run flawlessly. I think we've had developers start to make specific ports that target the Steam Deck hardware. That's one of the best things about it. But at the same time, it does mean that it could hinder your experience if the game that you want to play hasn't ever been tested properly. Bear that in mind if you are looking at the Steam Deck versus some of the these Windows handhelds. The hardware isn't the most powerful. By no means is this powerful in the PC gaming handheld market anymore. You have the ROG Ally X, I think, that's coming out soon. That's going to be a different beast entirely. We have the Legion Go S, which now runs SteamOS. There are alternatives out there that offer you technically more bang for your buck. I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly, but there are devices out there from other manufacturers that might give you a better experience if you are looking for the most high-end, potentially, experience with a handheld such as this. Another problem I've really had when using my Steam Deck over the last couple of months is sometimes you'll have an update that changes certain things that either sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. There are times when power draw has changed drastically when I've had an update direct from Valve that I've installed. I don't install them very often. I kind of keep things as consistent as possible. I think that's the best way to describe it. Sometimes you will get an update that might fix a problem, but bring about another problem. Of course, this is one piece of hardware with specific specifications. Luckily, Valve can tune for that. But I sometimes get audio bugs, or sometimes it isn't perfect. Put it that way. This is not going to be quite like having a Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch, where at least in theory things will be flawless. Maybe the performance isn't as good, but things won't be as sharp around the edges. This is a PC at the end of the day, and sometimes PCs have rough edges. Once they're refined out with certain updates and all that kind, like the tuning that you can do, you will get a fantastic experience. Going back to the games for a moment, I think some games do get updated quite regularly to fix this. Cyberpunk 2077, I've had no end of different experiences with that game across all of my gaming PCs, consoles. I even played it on Stadia back in the day. I know a lot of people out there don't like Stadia, but I thought it was a really good platform. But yeah, that's a video for another day. With games like those, you can sometimes see frame drops to practically zero, like 1 or 2 frames a second. It isn't perfect, put it that way. And I think you're gonna have to, if you already have one, you probably know, exactly what I'm talking about. I think, yeah, if you're looking at this going into it and thinking you have a completely flawless 99.9% of the time, it is, that 0.1% of the time or even 1% of the time can detrimentally affect how you use the Steam Deck as your main gaming console, if it is your main gaming console. And that leads me to another point. I don't think a Steam Deck should be your main gaming outlet. I think it should be a sidearm. I think for those of you who have a gaming PC, it is the perfect way to play certain games that are in your backlog, for instance, and everybody talks that they have a backlog on Steam. It is a really good way for you to get into games that you won't necessarily put on your main gaming rig, like I won't put on my main gaming rig behind me. That's where Steam Deck shines more so than any other console or any other gaming handheld I've ever had before. Throw in the emulation option and you've just got a wealth of tools that you just don't get elsewhere. Well, you do get elsewhere, but it doesn't feel like you get elsewhere. This is it's not a Swiss Army knife in every respect, but for a certain demographic of gamers out there, this is going to be the perfect thing for you. If you are someone who's looking for, I guess, a PC gaming replacement, I don't think personally that this is it. I think this is, like I say, that sidearm, the backup option, the travel option. When you're away from your gaming rig, likely your gaming rig is going to be more powerful. You're going to be able to play certain games, be those competitive shooters, be those the really high-end AAA titles that, yeah, there's not as many AAA titles nowadays, but in that respect, you just have to give it some sort of like leeway. Don't go in and expecting that you're going to just have your gaming PC on the go. No, that's not how this works. The other thing right now is competition. And I think with the Steam Deck, there is a couple of PC gaming handhelds out there that are really starting to get into the realms of more viable or something that you might look at. For me personally, I think the Legion Go S, which does run SteamOS, which, yeah, I would prefer that to Windows. But the ROG Ally X with all of those Game Pass and Xbox integrations is going to make a change to some people's how they view this particular console. I think if you are someone who is happy with Windows, you like the trappings of all of the extras that you get there, and technically the better performance, yes, you might not get certain things working quite as well as you do run on SteamOS because of the way that Valve has implemented that. Definitely look elsewhere. The downside there is that you're going to potentially be paying 2 to 3 times the price. I don't think that's worth it personally because, yeah, I stick to those games, say, pre-2019. If you play games pre-2019 on the Steam Deck, you should have a fantastic time. There are loads of independent developers out there. I mean, you got Locothunk with Balatro, which is easily my must-play game on Steam Deck, but I can play that on phones, play it on anything else. Games like recently, I've started playing Untitled Goose Game, Dave the Diver. All of these low-end, low-specification games are the perfect place to play these games on this particular hardware. Yes, there are those other ones that are coming in later down the line. I know, is it Ioneo, whatever they want to call themselves. They have some ridiculously high-end hardware, but I don't think they're drastically better than this in terms of the cohesion. But I do think Asus, Lenovo, and a couple of others, once they really start to get into this space properly, they've had some of them had a few times, like MSI have had some good options, but yeah, I do think now they're starting to hit their stride and seeing that this is a viable space to make and produce hardware that is going to sell en masse, as it were. We're going to start to see people move further away from where the Steam Deck OLED specifically is in the market. And that is one of my biggest concerns. I do think that over the next few years, I'm probably going to change how I use this device, maybe upgrade the battery, try and just play a lot of low-end games. Just stick to those. Don't play those high-end games that I think aren't really going to be more plentiful. They're going to be less plentiful, as it were, as games release. You're not going to have as many games that you can play or as viable to play on this hardware. So yeah, that is another thing to bear in mind. As for the future of the Steam Deck, I mean, it'd be easy to ask for certain upgrades. I think that we still have a good few years. Valve pushes updates to this probably every few days, as far as I can see. I don't update my console very often. But if you are someone who is wanting the highest end, the bleeding edge, you're not going to be buying a potentially 3-year-old console in the future. I do think that opens it up for some deep discounts. And I think, as I say, if you're someone who sticks to the medium level gaming out there, you maybe you want to plug this into a machine and use it as a basic Linux operating system. Hey, this is a perfect option for you to do that. You have some gaming options as well. Yeah, it's a confusing time because, like I say, Valve is very closed about how they talk about hardware, specifically how they talk about product releases, gaming releases. So I would not be shocked if we did get a Steam Deck 2 in the next 3 to 4 years. I personally can't see it releasing in the next year or so, but I mean, there are rumors online of a potential hardware refresh. I think it would make sense if Valve is going to do that. They're just going to do it like V2, V3, rather than doing a brand new piece of hardware, just improve certain aspects of it. I think the ergonomics are still fantastic on this device. I still think that the screen is great. I'd love to see a 1080p screen, but I do think having it at, I think it's 800p. If you're playing 720p gaming on this handheld, it looks great. The Edge screen is great. The controls are fantastic. It's a really comfortable piece of tech. I like the fact that it's made of plastic because it means it's lighter in your bag. It means you can put it through its paces, as it were. You can kind of, I don't baby my console. I throw it around all over and it's absolutely fine. I've reshelled it once from the original black model because I wanted a white model. I'm not paying triple the price to get one. I think that is one area where this is easily the best out there in terms of PC gaming handhelds. You have such a wide array of support, wide array of accessories, wide array of people out there modding their devices. The mod scene is fantastic for the Steam Deck, and I do want to do more mods to this console. But yeah, as it were, the final verdict, if you're looking at the Steam Deck currently, I don't think the LCD is a great option to buy for many people out there, unless that's the only option you have, and it's very, very cheap. I think the Steam Deck OLED still has life in it yet. I think another 2 or 3 years, probably the very, very limit of that in terms of playing more recent 3D titles. I've noticed certain games are just not quite where they should be or where I want them to be to have the best experience. I think, yeah, it's going to become a low-end gaming handheld effectively, and then there was some emulation with all of those classic consoles. I think that is where the Steam Deck is really, really starting to show its long-term value to people out there. But yeah, if you are looking at the Steam Deck and you have any questions, by all means, drop them in the comments. I'll try and do my best to answer as many as possible. But this is a slightly different video, completely off the dome. Hopefully it comes across as a little bit cohesive. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you in the next one.